level. Everybody has their own local concerns, but we kind of information share and we pass along protocols and things spread throughout systems and understandings. And they used as an example sepsis, that when you started understanding about hospital-borne infections and that you had to change the socks and wash your hands and there were these simple things to do that you could get ahead of it, it spread all across the country. And yet with this pandemic, it seems like everybody has to figure it out on their own, by state, by county, and by community. Has that been your experience?
I think that was true mostly just because we didn't know, like I said before, what we were really encountering when our cases initially started. You know, because we're a rural community-based hospital, we don't have a larger academic center from which to draw a lot of resources or to have a lot of experts in different fields that might help give us that kind of guidance. And so we were really reliant on colleagues from Italy and China to really provide that information. And I think even there may be other, agencies around the country that were similar, trying to get a grasp of what the situation was.
I'm looking at the timing here. Obviously you saw what had happened out west, and obviously then it started to hit the big travel hubs. What do you think it was that kept it from being obvious everywhere that you saw cases anything like it? What were the factors that went into making it difficult to know what you were dealing with?
I think one factor largely was that we were in the middle of coming out of the winter season. Respiratory illnesses often look a lot like each other. So when you have a patient come in with fever, cough, shortness of breath, well, that could be flu or any other viral illness as well. Additionally, I don't think we really knew at that point what the best way to risk stratify these patients were and how to assess who would be higher risk, lower risk, things like that. So that lack of just information, basic information about how the disease was transmitted, is it airborne, is it not? I think all those things contributed to us really not knowing. But also, I think when you live in a community like ours and you have a lot of patients that are sick from a number of other things, it's an infection that traveled from China down to rural Southwest Georgia is not usually at the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, China bounced to Europe and, came through so many different points of entry. And you're in a complex community, maybe a small place, but has a lot of problems, a lot of poverty. A minority community that's exposed to a lot of systemic issues of poverty and underlying illnesses and food shortages and malnutrition and not getting enough health care as easily as they might. And that all contributes to it. Have you ever seen anything else that is as beguiling as this virus is? These little tumors that break out and then kids start getting weird things. And you learn that you have to change your protocols about people being on their back because of what it does to lungs. It just seems like it keeps throwing curveballs at us.
Yes, for sure. I think that's been the fundamental problem with this whole illness is every single day there's something new. In the beginning we heard that largely children were not impacted by this illness. It was largely elderly patients and people with a lot of underlying medical components. But, our experience had been that we had some young patients that had no underlying medical history that got sick. And so every day we were all really struggling to try to keep up with all the different pieces of information coming out from so many different sources, because it just seemed like depending on where the outbreaks were, you may see a completely different constellation of symptoms than what you might elsewhere. And even when I've compared after the fact with colleagues who are in different parts of the country, it seems like, things that I would notice weren't necessarily true in other hospitals or in other regions.
So weird. It really is just so weird. It'll be such an interesting story, I guess, for the next generation to figure out what we went through here and what we learned about the virus and about ourselves. Dr. Shanti Akers, thank you very much. The best to you and your family for good health.
Thank you.
All right. The VA system. Oh, we love the troops. Oh, we all care so much. Why am I saying it facetiously, sarcastically? Because I just don't see the follow-through. Deaths in the VA system now top 1,000. And we know that's just part of how this tragedy is claiming our veterans. And especially this weekend into Memorial Day, that any component of the people that we have to honor the sacrifice, that they died this way when we could have stopped it. We have a duty to protect everyone who once protected us especially. Let's get after it with Senator and Iraq War veteran and Purple Heart recipient Tammy Duckworth. Next.
Frustrated that clean clothes you want to wear always seem to need an iron?
Try Bounce Wrinkle Guard dryer sheets.
The Bounce Wrinkle Guard shorts have fewer wrinkles and static and more softness. It's the world's first mega sheet that does the job of 3 dryer sheets. Bounce out wrinkles.
There's something I'd like to show you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
This place is filled with wonder.
He's looking at you, kid. Free your mind.
Yes! Yes!
Bazinga!
I am someone who is looking for.
So he wants to open up now to make today better for him, and then he figures he'll clean it up later.
Michael, indeed, as a devoted follower of yours on... Sure, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and also running for re-election and governing his responses to this crisis, I think a lot of the people who think that he does care are put off by that. Franklin Roosevelt in 1940, Hitler was on the march, the Japanese were on the march. Roosevelt, if he were going to be helping his re-election, would have said, I'm going to be an isolationist because most Americans don't want to get involved in a war and lose, members of their family. Instead, he said, we've got to rearm and we also have to have a draft. And he did that just a few days before he ran for re-election. It was not helpful to him, but he knew that that's what the presidency is.
I was about to compliment you as another dedicated follower of yours on social media. I was stunned to remember that picture of Eisenhower crying, not the guy we tend to think about and memorialize as Supreme Allied Commander and President. This was your posting today, the holiday that used to be called Decoration Day, Memorial Day at Arlington National Cemetery during the influenza pandemic. This is May 1919. Michael, talk about all of the ways we were so very different.
Well, look at that picture. There was no social distancing. That was at least a year into the pandemic. And you also had a president who was a very cold-hearted and selfish person, which was Woodrow Wilson, who wanted to run the war for most of the time of the previous year, wanted to stay popular, didn't want people to be upset by the idea that there was a pandemic, and so never spoke in public about the fact that 670,000 plus Americans were dying of this influenza. That's the opposite of what you want from a president. You want a president with a heart so that even if he makes mistakes, people will say it's not because he's indifferent, it's because he's human.
I was printing out labels and saving money.
ShipStation saves us so much time. It makes it really easy and seamless. Pick an order, print everything you need, slap the label onto the box, and it's ready.
Beautiful bacon, dude.
Put that on the grill, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Can I just have this on a stick? All that effort to make this great bacon, and now we're going to grind it up.
Yeah.
And then make the patty, and we're done?
Pretty much. And then season it with some kosher salt and white pepper. Cook it in the wood-fired oven.
You make the bread also?
Yeah, potato bread. It's like half potatoes and half flour. Boiled russets.
This is more potato than bread. I've never seen potato bread at this level.
We go in with our water.
Fresh yeast, super critical. Some olive oil.
AP flour, bread flour, salt. Mix it for about 12 minutes. Let it proof for about an hour until it doubles in size.
Portion it out.
Roll them out into the Kaiser shape. Let them proof and approximately double in size.
What temperature are you going to make it at?
350. About 20 minutes.
Okay.
Toasted Kaiser.
Okay.
Get a little bit of mayonnaise on it. Nice heirloom tomatoes.
Gorgeous.
Some organic greens. Tiny bacon patty over here.
I've never seen that much bacon on a BLT.
Top it with our Kaiser for you. House-made onion rings.
You ready? That's a monster. Well, this is what everybody wants a BLT to be like. You're getting the volume of a burger, the flavor of the bacon, the whole top of that patty is just all that crispy, crunchy, unctuous flavor. Then on the inside, it's super tender. It's just done.
Healthy again.
I'm one of the lucky ones. So are we right to be as perturbed as many of us are about not hearing from Secretary Wilkie, not getting a straight count on veterans, this idea that they're dying in other systems and not being counted and some states aren't counting them at all? Are we right to be upset, or is there some excuse to be had?
Well, we are right to be upset, and we should be concerned because veterans are especially vulnerable to COVID-19, especially those who were exposed to burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan. And don't forget that our Vietnam veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange also have reduced lung functions and other comorbidity, other illnesses that make them even more vulnerable to this pandemic.
And a lot of them are old, so we know they're vulnerable. The question is, did the system make them more vulnerable? Do you have questions for the Secretary?
I do have questions for the Secretary. I want to make sure that all the VA facilities are up and able to take care of all of our veterans. But we should be testing, all of our veterans. And we need to make sure that we know who is actually either falling ill or dying as a result of COVID-19. Now, I will tell you, I've called all of the VA hospitals in Illinois and had great relationships with all of those hospital directors. But unfortunately, within the VA, the problem that we have is when you've gone to one VA, you've gone to one VA. They're not consistent across the country, and we need to do a better job of that. And that's where Secretary Wilkie can certainly step forward and provide some leadership. But he's been awfully quiet during this whole pandemic, unfortunately.
What do you make of that?
Well, I just don't know whether he truly has a handle on things. For example, know that Hines VA has taken care of all of their own folks and has actually taken on some cases from the civilian population as well. That's my VA hospital in the Chicagoland area. But I worry that, there are veterans who are in nursing homes who are falling ill and dying and not being counted as veterans who are passing away. And some of them, as you mentioned, are more vulnerable because of Agent Orange. They're older. And again, don't forget the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. They have problems with respiratory illnesses already.
Mm. And look, for me, it's just everybody's so quick to say how much we love you guys and how you're the best of us and we owe you so much. And it seems like we always fall down on that commitment. And it's very frustrating. Let me ask you something else while I have you. One political question. So Biden goes on with Charlemagne the God, in my opinion, maybe one of the best names in entertainment. And Charlemagne is having a serious conversation with him. And Biden says, listen, you don't know who to vote for between me and Trump. You're not black. Now, the VP says today, I was being too cavalier. I shouldn't have been a wise guy. I shouldn't have spoken that way. How big a deal?
Well, look, I think the big deal is Donald Trump in the White House, right? And so let's not have false equivalencies right here. If there's a person that I'm going to trust who's going to been there for persons of color, for minorities, for women, it's been Joe Biden his entire career. I would rather trust Joe Biden to represent true diversity in the White House than I would Donald Trump any day of the week.
Tailor the response to the minority community, some of whom believe, Democrats take our votes for granted. And there's a nonchalance in the way he just spoke about us. Some of them feel that bespeaks that nonchalance, that they take us for granted. And why should they just keep voting for Democrats if there's nothing in it for them, specifically for them?
Well, let me tell you what Democrats are doing. Democrats, for example, I started the Environmental Justice Coalition in the Senate to make sure that our Black and brown communities, which are where we tend to dump out toxic chemicals, are the ones that are going to be best served. And in fact, in Illinois, for example, African Americans are 15% of our population, yet over 40% of our COVID-19 positive cases because of health inequities. And we're working very hard to address those issues. It is Democrats who are out there making sure that we send money to all of our hospitals, including those that are on the front lines. It is Democrats who stand up time and time again to fight for working families. We're the ones who are pushing the HEROES Act that will provide assistance for people who are essential workers, not just the doctors and nurses who are heroic, but the janitors who are cleaning our hospitals, the folks who are working on the front lines in our, at McDonald's supplying my daughter with McNuggets every single day, and those who are working in our grocery stores who are never signed up to be on the front lines of a global pandemic, but here they are. It is Democrats who are watching out for working families all across this country, and we are truly the party of diversity. And so if you're going to compare, go right on ahead. You'll see that the Democrats and Joe Biden, as the person who's going to lead us into victory in November and into the White House, will be the party that will be watching out for hardworking Americans, no matter what your background, and that we do care about diversity. And we always have.
If you care so much, Senator Duckworth, would you consider being VP with Joe Biden on the ticket?
Well, I've never said no when my country has called me to serve. But my focus really is on getting Joe Biden into the White House. And whatever that takes, I'm willing to do that because our country is in trouble right now with Donald Trump in the White House. He certainly has led us down a path that has left us a nation in crisis. And we desperately need Joe Biden and his leadership, all his years and decades of experience to lead us out and back into the global environment where we can lead the world again and we can take care of Americans and take care of hardworking families. So whatever I can do to get Joe Biden into the White House, I'm going to do it.
Well, Dick Durbin said your name is in the mix, and if they're looking for a warrior, I don't know who comes before you. Senator Tammy Duckworth, the best to you and your family. Thank you for your service. Thank you for making time for us tonight.
Thank you for having me on, and happy Memorial Day.
Thank you. Be well, Senator. Closing argument next.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. During the challenging times we're all experiencing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities that we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best mortgage experience. We understand that hardships may arise, and we're prepared to help. If you currently work with us and need assistance,
here in Rehoboth, and I think it'll be a manageable situation. We opened up the beaches last weekend. They're open up more for swimming and sunbathing this weekend, as you mentioned. And I think more people will be here this weekend, although the weather isn't that, the forecast isn't that great. So I think it'll be okay, but nothing like it normally is.
Mayor, on a usual Memorial Day weekend, if you and I walk the main drag, what's the percentage of out-of-state license plates you see on a big weekend in Rehoboth, and how do you think that will differ this weekend by percentage?
Well, I would say at least 50% of the license plates are from out of Delaware on a normal weekend. Many of our property owners here in Rehoboth, as well as along the coastal communities, are from other states. And they typically will come down on a Memorial Day weekend, but we'll have a lot of visitors coming down, staying in hotels, rental homes. And I would say this weekend, it'll be a lot more Delaware plates and a lot fewer out-of-state plates because many of the restrictions that have been put in place by the governor were to
oven-ready meals, done in minutes. New from Sunbasket.
Night at 9 on Food Network and Food Network Go.
Looks like they picked the wrong getaway driver.
They'll be paying for this for a long time.
They will, but with accident forgiveness. Allstate won't raise your rates just because of an accident, even if it's your fault.
Cut! Sonny.
Is that good?
Line. The desert never lies.
Isn't that what I said?
No, you were talking about Allstate and insurance.
I just, when I...
Let's try again. Everybody back to one.
Accident forgiveness from Allstate. Click or call for a quote today.
For years, I thought I was lactose intolerant. Turns out I was just sensitive to a protein commonly found in milk. Now with A2 milk, I can finally enjoy cereal again.
It's delicious like real milk, because it is real milk.
A2 milk is real milk from real cows that produce only the A2 protein.
I'm so happy I found this.
I know just one thing is true. Life is better with you.
Did you know that 70% of your immune system is located in your gut? So by keeping your gut healthy, you keep your immune system healthy. Try Align Daily Immune Support to help naturally support your gut health and boost your immune system. Formulated with a quality probiotic strain, Align helps power your health from the inside. It adds more good bacteria to your gut, which works naturally with your body to help strengthen your immunity. For a daily boost for your health, take Align every day with a money-back guarantee. Also try Align Gummies to help support gut health and a strong immune system.
Pain relief. Flex your freedom with Joint Flex. Now also available with natural turmeric.